The message came at midnight. Earth Time Admiral Kang Juno stood alone on the observation deck of the horizon, watching the red surface of Mars spin slowly below. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. 30 years in the Navy had taught him many things, but nothing had prepared him for tonight. "Sir?" A voice called from behind him. "They are ready." Junho turned to see Commander Park Yuna standing at the door. She was younger than him by 20 years, with sharp eyes and a calm face. She had served under him for 5 years. In that time, she had never shown fear. But tonight, he could see something different in her expression. "How many ships?" Junho asked. "Our sensors count over 300. They stopped just outside the asteroid belt. 300 alien ships. The largest fleet humanity had ever seen. And they had come with a message. JUNHO followed Yuna through the metal corridors of the station. Crew members stepped aside as he passed. Some saluted. Others simply stared. They all knew what was happening. The whole solar system knew first contact had happened 12 years ago. A small probe had entered Earth's orbit and transmitted a simple greeting. Humanity had celebrated. They were not alone in the universe. There were others out there. Friends, perhaps. Teachers. Brothers and sisters among the stars. They were wrong. The Galactic Council was not interested in friendship. They were interested in control. 12 ancient civilizations ruled the galaxy. They had done so for 10,000 years. They made the laws. They decided who could travel between stars. They decided who could live and who would die. And now they had decided about humanity. JUNHO entered the command center. It was a large circular room filled with screens and control panels. 50 officers worked at their stations, but all of them stopped when he entered. On the main screen, a face waited. It was not a human face. The creature was tall and thin, with skin like blue glass. Its eyes were empty white orbs. It had no mouth, but somehow it spoke. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, cold and flat like wind through dead trees. "Admiral Kang Juno of the United Earth Command," the creature said. "I am voice of the Council. I speak for the 12. Junho stood in the center of the room. He did not sit. He did not bow. He simply looked at the screen and waited. "Your species has violated galactic law," the voice continued. "You have developed faster than light travel without permission. You have expanded beyond your birth system. You have built warships. These actions are forbidden to infant species." Infant species. Juno felt his hands tighten into fists. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They had split the atom and touched the moon. They had cured diseases and built wonders. And to these creatures, they were infants. "The Council has debated your fate," the voice said. "Some wished to destroy you immediately. Others argued for mercy. A compromise was reached. The screen flickered. A countdown appeared. 30 solar cycles. You have 30 cycles to surrender your hyperdrive technology. You will dismantle your fleet. You will return to your home planet and remain there. If you obey, you will be allowed to exist. If you refuse..." The screen changed again. It showed a planet, green and blue, covered with cities and lights. Then fire fell from the sky. The cities burned. The oceans boiled. In seconds, the planet was nothing but ash and rock. "This was the homeworld of species 7742, the voice said. "They also refused. They no longer exist. Choose wisely, Admiral." The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the hum of machines and the quiet. Breathing of 50 officers who had just been told their species might die. Yuna stepped forward. "Sir, what are your orders?" Junho looked at her. Then he looked at the crew. Young men and women. scientists and soldiers. Some had families on Earth. Some had children on the colonies. All of them were looking at him, waiting for him to speak. He thought about the planet on the screen. He thought about the fire and the ash. He thought about Earth, the blue marble where humanity had been born. He thought about his daughter, who was studying medicine in Seoul. He thought about his grandson, who had just learned to walk. And then he thought about something else. Something the alien had said, not 30 cycles, not 30 minutes, not 30 hours. 30 days. The council had given them 30 days. Why? Because they were merciful? No, because they were arrogant. They believed humanity was weak. They believed humans would spend those 30 days crying and begging. They believed humans would surrender without a fight. They did not know humanity at all. Junho walked to the main control panel. He pressed a button, and his face appeared on every screen on every ship and every station in the solar system. Billions of people were watching. Billions of people were afraid. He spoke slowly and clearly. My name is Admiral Kang Junho. 12 minutes ago, the Galactic Council delivered an ultimatum. They have given us 30 days to surrender our technology and our freedom. They have shown us what happens to those who refuse. He paused. I have seen their power. I have seen their ships. I have seen what they did to others. And I want to tell you something. His voice grew stronger. They think we are weak. They think we are children. They think 30 days is enough time for us to give up. But they do not understand what we are. They do not know our history. They do not know that we have faced extinction before, not once, but many times. And every time we have survived. Every time we have become stronger. He looked directly into the camera. 30 days is not a death sentence. 30 days is a gift. 30 days is all the time we need to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. He turned to Yuna. Commander, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them to prepare for war. Tell every factory, every shipyard, every scientist, and every soldier to get ready. We have 30 days. Yuna saluted. Yes, sir. And the Council's ultimatum? Junho looked at the dark screen where the alien face had been. They wanted an answer. Here it is. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not beg. And in 30 days, the Galactic Council will learn why. He walked toward the door and stopped. Get me a ship to Earth. I need to speak with the Secretary General. We have a war to plan. Behind him, the command center erupted into motion. Officers ran to their stations. Communications channels opened. Messages flew across the solar system. The galaxy had given humanity an ultimatum. Humanity had given its answer. And now, the clock was ticking. The war chamber sat deep beneath Sol Megacity, protected by 300 meters of rock and steel. It had been built during the Third World War, 100 years ago. Back then, humans had feared each other. Now, they feared something far worse. Secretary General Chomino stood at the head of a long table. He was a small man with kind eyes and a soft voice. For 10 years, he had led the United Earth government with patience and wisdom. He had ended wars. He had fed the hungry. He had brought peace to a troubled world. But peace would not save them now. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists. They had come from every nation, every continent, every colony. They had put aside old hatreds and old fears. Today, there were no countries. There was only humanity. 28 days remain, Mingho said. Admiral Junho is on his way from Mars, but we cannot wait for him. We must decide now. Do we fight, or do we surrender? The room exploded into argument. We cannot win, shouted President Faber of the European Federation. They have thousands of ships. We have less than 100. This is not a war. This is suicide. Then what do you suggest? General Yung Tai-Wu replied. He was an old soldier with a scarred face and iron-gray hair. Should we give them our technology? Should we destroy our own fleet? Should we lock ourselves on Earth and wait for them to change their minds? At least we would survive, would we? Tai-Wu leaned forward. You saw what they did to that planet. You think they will leave us alone? You think they will let us grow strong again? No. If we surrender today, they will come back tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. They will take everything we have. They will make us slaves, and when they are bored with us, they will burn our world like they burned the others. Weber fell silent. Minho raised his hand. General, you speak of fighting. But how? Our ships are fast, but their shields are stronger than anything we have seen. Our weapons cannot break through. That is why I asked Dr. Han to come, Tai-Wu said. He turned to a young woman sitting at the far end of the table. Dr. Han Somi was 32 years old. She had black hair, round glasses, and the tired look of someone who had not slept in days. She was the greatest physicist of her generation. She had invented the hyperdrive that allowed humanity to travel between stars. And now she might be their only hope. Dr. Han, Minho said, please, tell us what you have found. Somi stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. The Council's shields use a type of energy field we do not fully understand, she said. Our weapons cannot break through from outside, but I have been studying the hyperdrive. I believe we can use it as a weapon. The room went quiet. When a ship enters hyperspace, it creates a small tear in reality, Somiko continued. A doorway to another dimension. Normally, this tier is controlled. It opens, the ship passes through, and it closes. But if we remove the safety controls, if we modify the engine to create an unstable tier, what would happen? Minho asked. Somi took a deep breath. The tier would not close. It would grow. It would pull everything nearby into hyperspace. Ships, stations, even planets, if the tier is large enough. You want to use our own engines as bombs, Weber said. Yes, that is insane. The ship would be destroyed. Yes. The crew would die. Yes. Weber stared at her. You are asking us to build suicide weapons. Somi met his eyes. I am asking us to build weapons that can win. The Council thinks they are safe behind their shields. They think nothing can touch them. But a hyperdrive tier would open inside their shields. It would destroy them from within. One ship could take out a dozen of theirs. The room was silent again. Everyone was thinking the same thing. One ship, one crew, a dozen enemies destroyed. The math was terrible, but it was simple. Minho turned to Tai-Wu. General, what do you think? Tai-Wu stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the city above. Seoul Megacity had 50 million people. Families, children, dreams. All of them would die if the Council won. He turned back to the room. I have been a soldier for 40 years, he said. I have fought in wars you have never heard of. I have seen friends die. I have killed enemies. I have done terrible things in the name of peace. And I have learned one truth. He paused. Freedom is not free. It is bought with blood. It is paid for with sacrifice. Our ancestors knew this. They fought against impossible odds. They died so that we could live. And now it is our turn. He looked at each person in the room. The Council thinks we are weak. They think we are children. They think we will cry and beg and surrender. But they do not know us. They do not know that we have survived ice ages and plagues. They do not know that we have fought world wars and rebuilt from ashes. They do not know that we are the most stubborn, most dangerous, most determined species in the universe. His voice grew louder. They gave us 30 days to die. I say we use those 30 days to live, to build, to fight, to show the galaxy that humanity is not an infant species. Humanity is a sleeping giant, and they have just woken us up. He slammed his hand on the table. I vote for war, not because I want to die, but because I want my grandchildren to live free. I want them to look at the stars and know that their ancestors did not kneel. I want the Council to remember this day, the day they learned that humanity does not surrender. The room was silent. Then, slowly, President Faber stood up. I vote for war. One by one, the others rose. The Prime Minister of India, the President of Brazil, the Chairman of the African Union, the Governor of the Mars colonies. All of them standing, all of them voting. When it was done, Mino looked around the room. His eyes were wet, but his voice was strong. Then it is decided. Humanity will fight. He turned to Tai Wu. General, you will command our armies. Dr. Han, you will build your weapons. Admiral Juno will lead our fleet. And he paused. I will tell our people the truth. I will ask them to sacrifice. I will ask them to be brave. He walked to the door and stopped. 28 days. In 28 days, we will face the most powerful force in the galaxy. We may lose. We may all die. But if we do, we will die standing. We will die fighting. We will die as humans. He opened the door. Now let us begin. Outside the war chamber, the sun was rising over Seoul. 50 million people were waking up to a new day. Soon they would hear the news. Soon they would know the truth. And soon they would make a choice. The same choice their leaders had made. The choice to fight. The choice to be human. The factories never stopped. On Earth, machines worked day and night. Steel was melted. Metal was shaped. Weapons were built. In the shipyards above Luna, workers slept in shifts of 4 hours. In the asteroid belt, miners dug for ore until their hands bled. On Titan, engineers assembled engines that had never been tested. Humanity had 28 days to prepare for war. They would use every second. Lieutenant Pete Geo arrived at the Luna Training Center on day 3. He was 24 years old, born in Bizan, raised on stories of the stars. As a child, he had dreamed of exploring the galaxy. He had imagined meeting aliens, making friends, learning the secrets of the universe. Those dreams were dead now. The training center was a massive dome on the dark side of the moon. Inside, 5,000 young pilots practiced in simulators that felt too real. They flew against enemy ships. They dodged missiles. They died again and again, only to wake up and do it all over. G. Ho was good. He was one of the best. But being good was not enough. Being good meant you survived a few minutes longer. Being good meant you killed 5 enemies instead. Of 3 before they killed you. He needed to be better. You are too slow. A voice said behind him. G. Ho turned to see a young woman standing at his simulator pod. She had short black hair and oil stains on her face. Her uniform said she was an engineer, but her eyes said she was something more. Excuse me? Your reaction time, she said. You wait too long before firing. You aim for perfect shots. But perfect shots take time. And in combat, time kills. Ji-Ho frowned. Who are you? I'm Nari. I designed the targeting systems for these simulators. I know exactly how they work. And I know exactly why you keep dying. I do not keep dying. Nari smiled. It was not a happy smile. In the last hour, you died 14 times. The average pilot dies 20 times. So yes, you are better than average. But average pilots will not survive this war. She climbed into the simulator pod next to his. "Let me show you something." For the next 3 hours, Nari taught Jiho how to fight. Not the way he had learned in the academy. Not the careful, safe way. She taught him to be fast, to be reckless, to fire before he was sure, to trust his instincts instead of his eyes. She taught him to fight like someone who had nothing to lose. When they finished, Jiho looked at her. "How do you know all this?" "You are an engineer." Nari's smile faded. 3 years ago, aliens raided the mining colony on Callisto. I was there. My mother was there. My little brother was there. She paused. The aliens came for our metals. We had nothing to fight them with. No weapons. No ships. Just rocks and tools. We hid in the tunnels while they took everything. And when they left ... double quotes, her voice broke. My mother tried to protect my brother. She stood in front of him when the aliens came through our section. They killed her with one shot. My brother ran. They shot him in the back. Jiho said nothing. There was nothing to say. I survived because I was small. I hid in a ventilation shaft for 2 days. When the rescue ships finally came, I was the only one left in my section. 47 people. Just me. She looked at Jiho with hard eyes. I joined the engineering course because I wanted to build weapons. I wanted to make ships that could destroy the things that killed my family. And now I finally have my chance. She held out her hand. So, Lieutenant, do you want to learn how to win? Or do you want to die like everyone else? Jiho took her hand. Teach me everything. Far from Luna. In a hidden shipyard deep in the asteroid belt, Admiral Junho watched his secret weapon take shape. The Fury of Terra was the largest ship humanity had ever built. It was 3 kilometers long, armed with weapons that had never been used. At its heart was a hyperdrive engine 10 times larger than any other. Dr. Han's weapon. The ship that would change the war. Will it work? Junho asked. Dr. Han stood beside him, watching the construction crews through a window. The math says yes. The simulations say yes. But we have never tested it in real combat. And if it fails? Han was quiet for a moment. Then we lose. The Council's fleet is too strong. Without this weapon, we cannot win. Junho nodded slowly. He had known the answer before he asked. He just needed to hear it spoken aloud. How many people will die? He asked. On the Fury? 2,000 crew. In the battle? Han shook her head. I cannot say many. Too many. Is there another way? No. Junho closed his eyes. 2,000 people would die on his ship. Thousands more would die in the battle. And he had to give the orders. He had to send them to their deaths. This was the burden of command. This was what it meant to be a leader. Not glory. Not power. Just pain and responsibility and choices that no one should have to make. He opened his eyes. Finish the ship. We launch in 4 days. On day 29, the fleet assembled. 300 ships gathered at the edge of the solar system. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, fighters. And at the center, the Fury of Terra, dark and massive and silent. Jiho sat in the cockpit of his fighter, parked in the bay of the carrier Phoenix. Around him, 200 other pilots waited in their ships. Some prayed. Some cried. Some just stared at nothing. Nari's voice crackled through his radio. She was on the Fury, working in the engine room. Jiho? Are you there? I am here. Are you scared? He thought about lying. But what was the point? Yes, I am scared. Good, she said. Fear means you want to live. And people who want to live fight harder. Is that what you believe? It is what I know. She paused. Jiho, when this is over, If we survive, I want to go somewhere. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere with trees and water and no stars. That sounds nice. Will you come with me? Ji-Ho smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in days. Yes, I will come with you. Then you better not die, Lieutenant. I will do my best, Engineer. The radio clicked off dot around him. Engines began to roar. The fleet was moving. 300 ships carrying 1,000,000. Humans, soldiers, pilots, engineers, doctors, all of them flying toward the greatest battle in human history. Admiral Juno's voice filled every ship. This is Admiral Kang Juno. In 12 hours, we will reach the Orion threshold. The Council's fleet is waiting for us. They think we are coming to surrender. They are wrong. His voice was calm and strong. We are coming to fight. We are coming to show them what humanity can do. We are coming to make them understand that this galaxy is not theirs alone. It belongs to anyone brave enough to reach for the stars. He paused. Some of us will not come home. I will not lie to you about that. But those who fall will not be forgotten. They will be remembered as heroes. They will be remembered as the ones who stood up when the universe told us to kneel. He took a deep breath. Today, we fly into history. Today, we show the galaxy what it means to be human. Today, we fight. The ships jumped to hyperspace dot, and humanity went to war. The Orion threshold was a region of space where stars were born. Great clouds of gas and dust stretched across billions of kilometers. It was beautiful. It was ancient. And today, it would become a graveyard. The Council's fleet waited at the edge of the clouds. 2,000 ships from 6 civilizations. Cruisers with shields that could stop nuclear explosions. Carriers that held 1,000 fighters each. And at the center, the flagship of the Council itself, a vessel 5 kilometers long. Shaped like a black crystal, surrounded by a light that hurt human eyes to look at Dot, the voice of the Council stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the empty space where the humans would appear. Around it, officers from a dozen species worked at their stations. They were calm. They were confident. They had done this before, many times. Infant species always came with fire in their hearts and desperation in their eyes. They always fought, and they always died. The humans are late, said one of the officers. Perhaps they have chosen to surrender. They will come, the voice replied. Their kind always does. They would rather die fighting than live kneeling. It is ... almost admirable. Admirable? In the way that an insect fighting a storm is admirable, brave, pointless, but brave. The sensors screamed. 300 points of light appeared in space. Human ships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. Destroyers in front. Cruisers behind. Fighters pouring from carriers like silver rain. And at the center, something the Council had never seen before. A ship 3 kilometers long. Dark and angular. Silent. What is that? An officer asked. The voice studied the readings. Unknown configuration. Unknown weapons. It appears to be their flagship. Should we destroy it first? No. Let them watch their fleet die. Then we will take their flagship as a trophy. The voice raised one crystalline hand. All ships, attack. Admiral Juno stood on the bridge of the Fury of Terra, watching 2,000 enemy ships move toward his fleet. They came like a wave, like a wall of death. Even at this distance, he could feel their power. Commander Yuna stood beside him. Sir, they are launching fighters. Thousands of them. How long until they reach us? 8 minutes. Jun-Ho nodded. 8 minutes. That was all the time he had. Signal all ships, he said. Begin attack pattern Delta. Fighters, engage the enemy wave. Do not let them reach the capital ships. The human fleet moved Dot in his cockpit. Jiho pushed his fighter to full speed. Around him, his squadron flew in tight formation, 12 pilots against an ocean of enemies. The math was impossible. The odds were insane. But math and odds did not matter anymore. Only the fight mattered. Eagle Squadron, this is Eagle Lead, Jiho said into his radio. Stay tight. Watch each other's backs. And remember what we trained for. What about what we did not train for? Someone asked. Eagle 4, a young pilot named Ko Subin. We make it up as we go. The enemy fighters came screaming toward them. They were fast, faster than anything human. Their weapons glowed with energy that could cut through steel like paper. Jiho fired Dot. His missiles streaked across space and hit the lead enemy fighter. The shield held for half a second, then collapsed. The ship exploded in a ball of blue fire. One down. Thousands to go. They can be killed. Jiho shouted. Do not aim for the center. Hit the edges of their shields. That is where they are weakest. The squadrons clashed. Space became chaos. Lights and explosions and death. Jiho spun his ship through a wall of enemy fire, feeling the heat against his hull. He fired again and again, not waiting for locks, not waiting for perfect shots. He fired like Nari had taught him. Fast, reckless, alive. A human destroyer died to his left, torn apart by enemy weapons. A carrier burned to his right, spilling bodies and fighters into the void. But for every human ship that fell, 3 enemy ships followed. The humans were losing. But they were not dying quietly. On the Fury of Terra, alarms screamed. Hull breach on deck 7. An officer shouted. Enemy fire breaking through our armor. Shields at 40%. Another called. We cannot take much more of this. Junho gripped the rail in front of him. The ship shook with every impact. Around him, crew members worked with desperate speed, trying to keep the ship alive. Where is the flagship? He asked. 200 kilometers ahead, Yuna answered. But their escort is too strong. We cannot get through. We have to. Junho looked at the tactical display. The enemy flagship sat behind a wall of cruisers. If he could not reach it, the weapon was useless. If the weapon was useless, humanity was dead. There was only one option. Signal the destroyer group, Juno said quietly. Tell Captain Shin to execute Order Omega. Yuna froze. Sir, Order Omega means ... double quotes. I know what it means. Junho's voice was hard. Do it. 20 human destroyers broke formation. They turned away from the battle and flew directly toward the enemy wall. Not firing. Not dodging. Just flying. Captain Shin Heiwan stood on the bridge of the destroyer Final Dawn. She was 40 years old. She had a husband on Earth, 2 daughters on Mars. She would never see them again. All crew, she said into the ship's communication system. This is Captain Shin. You know what we are about to do. You know what it will cost. I want you to know that I am proud of you. All of you. And I want you to know that your sacrifice will not be forgotten. She paused. It has been an honor to serve with you. The 20 destroyers hit the enemy wall at full speed. But they did not try to break through. Instead, they did something the Council had never imagined. They rammed 20 ships, drove themselves into the shields of 20 enemy cruisers. The hyperdrives, modified by Dr. Han's team, activated at the moment of impact. Reality tore open. Holes appeared in space itself, swallowing ships on both sides. Human and alien alike pulled into dimensions that living beings were not meant to enter. In an instant, the wall was gone. A path to the flagship was clear, and 500 human crew members were dead. Junho watched the screen in silence. 500 lives. 500 families destroyed. Because he had given an order, he would remember their names. Every single one. The path is open, Yuna said softly. Sir, we can reach the flagship. Junho lifted his head. Grief would come later. Now there was only the mission. All ships advance. Get me within range of that flagship. The Fury of Terra moved forward, surrounded by its remaining escorts. Enemy ships tried to stop them. Some succeeded. Human cruisers died. Human fighters fell like stars. But the Fury kept moving. In the engine room, Nari worked with bleeding hands. The hyperdrive was overheating. Coolant systems were failing. Half her team was dead, killed when a missile breached the hull. But she could not stop. She would not stop. Come on, she whispered, adjusting a connection. Hold together. Just a little longer. The ship shook. Metal screamed. Somewhere above her, people were dying, but the engine held. Admiral, Yuna shouted. We are in range. 100 kilometers from the flagship. Junho looked at the massive crystalline ship on his screen. The command center of the Council fleet. If he destroyed it, the enemy would scatter. If he destroyed it, humanity might survive. Activate the weapon, he said. Deep in the Fury, the hyperdrive began to spin faster. Energy built up, more than any ship should hold. More than physics should allow. Power at 50%, an officer reported. 70%. 90%. The voice of the Council watched from its bridge. Something was wrong. The human ship was not attacking. It was just sitting there, glowing with strange energy. What are they doing? An officer asked. The voice did not answer. For the first time in its long existence, it felt something it had never felt before. Fear. Full power, Junho said. Fire. The Fury of Terra fired. A beam of twisted light shot from the ship's bow. It crossed 100 kilometers in a heartbeat. It struck the Council flagship directly in the center. And space itself broke open. A tear appeared in reality, a hole that grew and grew and grew. The Council flagship was pulled toward it, shields flickering, hull cracking. The voice of the Council tried to run, tried to escape, but there was nowhere to go. The tears swallowed the flagship whole. In an instant. The most powerful ship in the galaxy was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply erased from existence. The enemy fleet stopped firing. For a long moment, nothing moved. 2,000 alien ships hung in space, watching the empty place where their command had been. Then, slowly, they began to turn. And they ran. Junho watched them go. His legs gave out, and he sat heavily in his command chair. Around him, officers stared at their screens in disbelief. They are retreating, Yuna whispered. Sir, they are retreating. Junho closed his eyes. So many dead. So many sacrificed. But they had done it. They had won. Signal all ships, he said, his voice barely a whisper. The battle is over. Begin rescue operations. Find our survivors. He opened his eyes and looked at the stars. And tell Earth. Tell them we are coming home. The chamber of 12 was silent. 12 beings sat around a table made of crystal and light. They were the oldest creatures in the galaxy. Some had lived for 10,000 years. Others had existed even longer, their bodies replaced by machines, their minds stored in quantum matrices. They had ruled the galaxy since before humans had learned to use fire. And now, for the first time in their eternal existence, they were afraid. The voice is gone, said the eldest, a being of pure energy who called itself the first. Our flagship is destroyed. Our fleet has fled. And the humans, It paused. "The humans are still alive." "This is impossible," said another, a creature of metal and organic tissue. "We had 2,000 ships. They had 300. The math does not allow for this outcome." And yet it happened. The first turned its attention to the center of the table, where a hologram displayed the battle recordings. The moment when human destroyers rammed through the defensive line. The moment when the strange weapon tore their flagship from reality. The moment when their fleet, undefeated for 10,000 years, turned and ran. How did they do this? A third member asked. "Their technology is primitive. Their species is young. They should not have been able to touch us. They used their hyperdrives as weapons," the first said. "They modified their engines to create unstable tiers in space. They turned their ships into bombs. That is insane. The crew would die. They did die." The first's voice was quiet. 20 ships. 500 crew members. They flew into our wall, knowing they would be erased from existence. And they did it anyway. The chamber was silent. Finally, one of the younger members spoke. It was a being of water and glass, barely 3,000 years old. "We must gather a larger fleet. We must destroy them completely. If we let them survive, they will become a threat." "No," the first said. "No. They humiliated us. They killed thousands of our warriors. They destroyed our flagship. We cannot let this stand. And what will we send against them?" The first turned to face the younger being. "A larger fleet? They will build more weapons. Stronger ships. They had 30 days to prepare for this battle. Imagine what they could do with 30 years. Then we must act quickly, before they grow stronger. You do not understand." The first's voice was heavy with something that might have been sadness. "We have watched countless species rise and fall. We have seen civilizations that reached for the stars and civilizations that hid in the dark. We have seen warriors and poets, builders and destroyers. And in all that time, we have never seen anything like this." It gestured to the hologram, to the image of human ships flying into death. They did not fight to survive. They fought to win. They were willing to sacrifice everything, their ships, their lives, their future, for a chance at victory. That is not the behavior of an infant species. That is not the behavior of prey. The first looked at each member of the council in turn. "We awakened something today, something that was sleeping in the dark, something that has teeth and claws and an hunger for the stars. And if we are wise, we will not make it angry again." The chamber fell silent once more. "What do you suggest?" The water being asked. "Diplomacy," the first said. "We offer them a place among us. Not as servants. Not as children. As equals? Equals? They are barely out of their caves. Their caves have weapons that can tear reality itself. Their caves have warriors who do not know the meaning of surrender. I would rather have them as allies than as enemies." The vote was close. But in the end, the first prevailed. The Galactic Council would open diplomatic channels with humanity. For the first time in 10,000 years, a new species would join the 12 Dot, or rather the 13. On Earth, the survivors came home. The Fury of Terra limped into orbit around Luna, its hull scarred and broken. Of its 2,000 crew members, only 800 remained. But they were alive. They had done the impossible. Admiral Juno stood at the viewing port, watching Earth turn slowly below. Blue and green and white. So small from up here. So fragile Dot, so precious. "Sir." Commander Yuna walked up beside him. She had a bandage on her head and burns on her hands, but she was smiling. "We just received a message from Secretary General Cho. There is a celebration planned. The whole world wants to welcome us home." Junho nodded slowly. "How many did we lose?" Yuna's smile faded. 47,312. Dead or missing? 47,000. 47,000 families destroyed. 47,000 empty seats at dinner tables. 47,000 stories that would never be finished. We will remember them, Juno said. Every name, every face. We will build monuments. We will tell their stories. We will make sure the galaxy never forgets what they did. Yes, sir. He turned to face her. And you, Commander? Will you come to the celebration? Yuna shook her head. I am going to visit my mother first. She lives in Daegu. She has been sending me messages every hour since the battle ended. Jun-Ho smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in weeks. Go, be with your family. You have earned it. In Seoul Megacity, the streets were filled with people. Secretary General Cho Mino stood on a platform in front of the United Nations building, looking out at a sea of faces. Millions of people had come to celebrate. They waved flags. They cried. They hugged strangers. For one day, the whole world was united. Citizens of Earth, Mino said, his voice carried by speakers across the city, across the planet, across the solar system. 1 month ago, we received a message from the stars. We were told to surrender. We were told to give up our dreams. We were told to accept our place as slaves. He paused. We said no. The crowd roared. 47,000 of our brothers and sisters gave their lives for that no. They flew into battle knowing they might not come back. They fought against impossible odds. They sacrificed everything so that we could stand here today, free and proud and alive. He raised his hand. We will never forget them. We will never dishonor their memory. And we will never, ever stop reaching for the stars. The crowd cheered again, louder than before. In the shipyard above Luna, Lieutenant Beak Jiho walked through the empty corridors of the carrier Phoenix. The ship was being repaired, but most of the crew had gone home. Only the engineers remained. He found Nari in the engine room, sitting on a crate, staring at the hyperdrive she had saved. Hey, he said. She looked up. Her face was pale and tired, but her eyes were bright. Hey, you did it. You saved the ship. We did it, she corrected. All of us. Together. Jiho sat down beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just sat there, two survivors of the greatest battle in human history, listening to the quiet hum of machines. So, Jiho said finally, about that place. The one with trees and water and no stars. Nari smiled. You remembered. I remember everything you said. She reached over and took his hand. Her fingers were still rough with calluses, still stained with oil. But they were warm and alive. There is a place on Earth, she said. Jeju Island. My grandmother used to live there. She told me stories about the beaches and the flowers and the mountains. I always wanted to go. Then let's go. Now. Why not? The war is over. We survived. And I think, he squeezed her hand, I think we have earned a rest. Nari laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in years. Okay, she said. Let's go to Jeju. Let's see the beaches and the flowers and the mountains. Let's be normal people for a while. They stood up together and walked toward the hangar, leaving the engine room behind. Outside, the stars were shining. The same stars that had tried to kill them. The same stars that now belonged to them. 3 months later, the first diplomatic ship from the Galactic Council arrived at Earth, Dr. Han. Somi was chosen to represent humanity at the talks. She wore a simple suit and her round glasses, looking more like a university professor than a warrior. But the council representatives looked at her with respect, and perhaps a little fear. We offer you membership in the council, the representative said. It was a being of light and crystal, ancient beyond imagining. You will have a voice in galactic affairs. You will have access to our technology and our knowledge. You will be equals among the 12. Somi looked at the being for a long moment. Then she smiled. We accept your offer, she said. But we have conditions. Conditions? There are other infant species in the galaxy. Species you have ignored. Species you have threatened. Species you have destroyed. She leaned forward. That stops now. From this day forward, every species has the right to reach for the stars. Every species has the right to grow and learn and dream. And if anyone tries to stop them, She paused. They will answer to us. The representative was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, it nodded, agreed. Somi leaned back in her chair. Outside the window, she could see Earth floating in the darkness. Blue and green and white. Small and fragile and infinitely precious and around it, the first ships of humanity's new fleet. Bigger than before. Stronger than before. Ready for whatever came next. A reporter found her after the meeting. Dr. Han, he asked, what will humanity do now? Somi thought about the question. She thought about the battle. She thought about the 47,000 who had died. She thought about the billions who had survived. And she thought about the stars. All those endless infinite stars waiting to be explored now? She said, looking up at the sky. Now we take our place among the stars. Now we build and grow and learn. Now we show the galaxy what humanity can do. She smiled. And now, anyone who threatens our home will learn what we learned at the Orion threshold. What is that? Sami's smile faded. Her eyes grew hard. That humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not surrender. And humanity never, ever forgets. She walked away, leaving the reporter standing alone. Above her, the stars were shining, and humanity was watching.